Have you ever been part of a mob, friends? I have actually had the distinct pleasure of being part of at least a dozen mobs, smaller scale mobs in addition to those. So 12 plus full-size mobs, and then more than that of smaller scale agitations. And I have a little bit of perspective on how a group of people moves from, protesting or just being upset to actually doing stuff. And the mechanics a little bit of how a mob works. You got your agitators, you got your supportive crowd, and then you got your kind of go-betweens, people that are kind of there supportive, and then under certain circumstances they turn into agitators as well. We're going to talk about this because this is highly applicable to what's going on inside the United States right now. Now, I don't know about you, but you've probably heard about the CEO of a major insurance company. And I first did not really plan on covering it because we have about 68 murders per day in the United States, and I don't usually talk about them, and I don't see why we would necessarily talk about a person just because they're rich or because they're in a certain position. But I think there is an overarching thing that we need to talk about here, is that we're seeing the woke leftists have started to pull out of their shock. They're now starting to take action. They're figuring out what they're going to do. They're like that crowd, that discontented crowd that's considering whether or not they're going to start smashing windows, whether they're going to start throwing stuff at the police. They're not there yet, but they're thinking about it. And they're wondering, should we or shouldn't we? Friends, we're in the situation where, as the nation, we're in that situation where half the population is part of this crowd that's trying to decide what they're going to do. And there's agitators in that crowd, and I am very concerned. And primarily the reason why I'm concerned is because that crowd has shown a distinct lack of capability of reining in their wackos. They don't call them out. They justify what they're doing, and somehow it's always Trump's fault. We're going to talk about this because where this goes next is something we've been warning you about. Other channels like mine, preparedness channels, people on the libertarian side of things, the more conservative side of things, have been warning you that there's going to be a massive backlash to this election, and there's going to be instances. There's going to be probably a lot of instances where people are going to act out. The people on the woke left are upset. They're mad. And they're going to take it out on us. You better believe it. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. And we're keeping an eye on things here. I do have some experience. You may be like, Steve, what do you mean you've been part of a mob over a dozen times? Well, it was for training purposes. Let's put it that way. I used to volunteer to help the U.S. military kind of figure out if their soldiers were ready for crowd control and situations where, things got a little hairy. And so, yeah, we were given fake rocks. We did stuff. I'm not supposed to disclose stuff, so we won't go much further than that. But I'm going to give you some of my observations about the mob, not about the reactions by the U.S. military. This was years ago, but we had about a dozen plus instances where we were told to be a mob and to basically charge the U.S. soldiers. Repeatedly. We'd get shot, we'd get dragged away, and then we'd come up, we'd get respawned and came back because they didn't have enough of us to really accurately portray the whole thing, but we were supposed to put that pressure on them. Well, if you want to run into paintball guns and just keep getting shot when you're unarmed, it's kind of a situation where you kind of want the guy next to you to take them. You want him to go up further. And that's kind of how a mob works. You're all there, and while you're peaceful, there's no real risk. So everybody's kind of, there's the invisible lines of what you can do and what you can't do, right? So you can wave your signs, you can scream, you can shout, you can do stuff. But then there's when you get a little too close. When the riot police are there and you get a little too close, there's a certain point where they stop being statues and they start beating you over the head. I mean, and it's a trigger point, right? I mean, like, you step over that line, you touch their shield, you do something along those lines, and suddenly all that pent-up response suddenly gets unleashed on you. Like I said, we were shot many times, and that's, people are like, well, they're not allowed to do that. Oh, yes, they are. Oh, yes, they are. Because you're touching them, because no, we just got too close. There's an invisible line there, and you cross that line, and they protect themselves. That's just kind of how it goes. All right, so when you're dealing with that type of situation, you always kind of want to let somebody else take the heat. And so in a crowd, there is this kind of like, there's those who are a little more bold, who don't mind getting hit or whatever. And so they're going to be up at the front, and they're going to be pushing the boundary. But one thing you always see them doing is they keep looking over their shoulder. They want to see who's behind them, and they want to see how close people are behind them. So you have the agitators that are pushing it forward. Then you kind of have the sub-agitators that are kind of like, I'm not agitating, I'm not going to push the envelope, but I'm going to go as far as the other guys have gone so far. And I promise you, this is super relevant to what's happening in the United States now. And then you got the people that are just kind of there. They don't really know what's going on. They're not, they're the ones, waving the signs. They don't realize that, it's about to hit the fan. Okay? You got the guy kind of in the crowd. He's got his fireworks, and he's about to do something that's going to provoke a response, right? You got the guy with the laser pointers. You got the guy who's got the brick that he's going to do something with. You got those agitators that are about to do something, but they feel like they're supported by the crowd. And that's the real dangerous part. Any crowd's going to have these type of people. I've been on March for Life for many years, and I know that they had a lot of people dedicated to making sure that there aren't any agitators there doing something that they should not do. And many other events like Trump rallies and such, you see the crowd self-regulating. People are looking around for trouble. Even on that day in Butler County, people were pointing. They saw it, and they were trying to get the word out. They were like, that's not acceptable. You climbing on the roof with a boomstick is not acceptable behavior here. We need to deal with that. And when we look at this back, zoom back out to the countryside, we see the woke leftists do not regulate. They do not self-regulate. The more crazy you are, the more they kind of go, okay, well, I'm not that crazy, but I can understand why you're crazy like that. They justify it. They minimize it. And they use it as an opportunity to attack Trump. And this is something we've seen repeatedly again and again and again. Remember the first time that Trump got into office and Kathy Griffith had the picture with the dummy head? And they're like, oh, well, she's just angry and it's art and blah, 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 blah. They defended it. And you had all these other instances where, all the people with the hats showed up for the Women's March and started smashing windows and all that kind of stuff. Oh, well, they're just angry and upset and they have reason to be. Friends, these groups do not rein themselves in. So, when you have a psychopath who does what just happened in New York City, and we hear a whole bunch of people out there justifying what he, she, it did, when we have someone like the president's family doing whatever they want to do, and they get a pardon for any crimes that they may have committed within an 11-year period. Wow. Wow. I was surprised to see that the face on the shooter in New York City wasn't Hunter Biden, you know? He could just get an extension on his pardon for another couple weeks, and, you know, I mean, he can do whatever he wants. That's the kind of rule of law we have in the United States. There's zero feedback. There's zero pushback against the craziest members of their group. And when there's, you know, 50, 60 million of them who are really upset, you know, there's 50, 60 million of them, and then they conjured up another 20 million fake numbers. Anyway, and I believe that's really where we are. I believe that really fake numbers are in the millions in the United States if we were to actually investigate properly. Because they just keep having to up themselves again and again, and they just couldn't conjure up enough fake numbers. But how do they really turn violent? Well, there's going to be those aggressors. There's going to be those people out on the front trying to push things. And we see the woke leftists are right there behind them. Like, okay, so we're allowed to stand here now. Okay, we can kind of do that now without getting provoked. I mean, because that's what you see is you see these people pushing the boundary, and then everyone's kind of looking around like, are they going to get away with that? Or, I mean, are we okay with that? Oh, okay, we're okay with that. I'm okay with it, you know. I mean, we're all upset, so yeah, okay, so we're doing that now. Okay, well, I'm going to do that now. And that's kind of how it goes. And we're seeing that here in real time in the United States, where we had all these swatting attacks on Trump nominees. We had bomb threats on Trump nominees. And now they're starting to take out people that they don't like. If we don't have a major pushback, where's Biden? Is Biden going to be out here condemning this? Is Vice President Harris going to be out here condemning this? What about Nancy Pelosi, AOC? Are any of them going to be coming out and condemning this? Or are they going to be silent? Are they going to just kind of give that silent nod? Yeah, that just happened, and okay. We need to push back hard against these people, and honestly, people like you and I can't push back on them. Moderate Democrats, moderate leftists, whatever that means, are the ones who are going to have to push back on this. And if they don't, they're just going to encourage more and more of these type of things. There are radicals on campuses all across the United States. We've seen what they've done to free speech people on their campuses. We've seen what they've done to Jewish students on their campuses. We've seen it. And that was before they were mad. Now, they've been curled up in a fetal position for the past several weeks, but now we're starting to see that they're looking around and going, what should we do? We're mad. We need to take action. What are we going to do? It took them a while to get organized last time too, didn't it? They had the giant women's march, and they realized, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to scream at the sky. We're going to raise a ruckus. We're going to smash buildings and stuff like that. And that kind of led up to some of the race riots and all the things that they ended up doing with those things. We saw the groundwork laid, and then we saw them carry out. We saw that with the Antifa riots. We see, the mostly peaceful protests. And we had the media right there justifying what they were doing. Oh, well, they're really upset, and they have good reason to be upset. Well, friends, buckle up, because it's kind of cold to go out protesting right now, and only the hardest core protesters are going to go out. But I see a troubling trend where violence is being normalized. And we've warned about this. I mean, I knew it was kind of going this direction, and you probably did too. But yeah, we're going that direction. And unless the other side starts pulling their people back, we're going to see more acts. And when they do that kind of stuff, they're going to start getting some resistance. If they want to go out there and march and scream at the sky, okay. We don't generally do anything about that. We make fun of them and okay. They want to smash store windows, well, we start pushing back on that. They start torching cars, they start attacking people, and the Koreans get on the rooftops, okay? That's kind of how America works. All the white people flee to the suburbs, and the Koreans get up on the rooftops, and they start putting an end to some of that stuff. People inside these neighborhoods start putting their foot down and saying that's not acceptable anymore. We're done with this. They start working with the police. Now, nowadays, I mean, do the police in the cities actually do anything other than go and document crimes? If they arrest somebody, how many weeks until they're out on the streets again? Sometimes they don't even get held. They just immediately get out on bail for violent crimes. This is a situation in the cities. That's why people like me, I don't want to go downtown cities. I stay away from them. There's really no reason to go down there, and only when I'm traveling around. And then it's to get from point A to point B and get moving as quickly as I can and get out of harm's way. 68 people per day in the United States are murdered. And let's just say over half of them are in cities, downtown cities, where you're not allowed to have boomsticks. It's funny how that works, isn't it? So my caution to you, stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and hopefully we see some of our politicians opposite start pulling their people back. Because if they don't, it's just going to get worse. And as it rolls forward, these mobs, as they move forward, they start moving faster and faster and faster. When they get away with this, they start trying to get away with that. And not only when you see one person do this, if there's not a response, before you know it, there's going to be 50 people trying to do that exact same thing. You see that with like a mob, and there's like one idiot with a laser pointer. And then suddenly, you look over in Georgia, and like there's like 1,000 people with laser pointers. If it's tolerated, if it's allowed by the mob, particularly, it's just going to escalate. And it's going to escalate quickly until they run into some resistance, until their crowd starts trying to rein them in. That's the only time where things are going to really stop. Or the riot police start stopping them. And that's the situation we have right now, friends. And usually what happens is the riot police don't do anything, and then they overreact. And that's kind of how it works. I mean, that's you overreact in order to stop anyone else from trying that. When something unacceptable happens, you have to deal with that. You have to make an example of that person so that everyone else goes, okay, that's a line and I'm not going to cross it. Do we have competent policing? And I mean, you go down to Florida, yes, we do. But you go in New York City, do we have competent policing? I don't know. Chicago? I don't know. We got lots of people committing crimes and nothing's happening to them. That's clearly now okay. Hopefully that doesn't come to our communities. Hopefully our police keep us safe. And if they need the help, they know that we loyal citizens have their back as well. We still got the Texas flag up, and for good reason. We're remembering what's happening down at the border, and we're not forgetting that. And we won't forget that. That needs to be dealt with. All right, friends. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. Thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.